Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hello, and welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I am Chef C.C. Péan. Why am I yelling? I don't know. I'm a passionate speaker. So glad to be here with you all this evening. This evening, we're doing something a little different. I'm sure you're noticing I'm in my office. I'm not in my other office, which is the kitchen. I'm just chatting with you all tonight. And any questions you may have about this subject, please drop them in the chat. There's a chat there, and we would love to at least attempt to address any questions you may have. Tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about sodium and water. The reason I wanted to talk about sodium and water is actually part of it's a little selfish because I'm somebody who really struggles with my water intake. So I started thinking about, well, if it's something that I struggle with and I quote unquote know better, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have questions about water and why is it so important and how much water should I drink and what purpose does water really serve? And I've got all those answers. In addition, I wanted to talk about sodium because sodium is something that people of color in particular, we struggle with that. I think it goes back to, slavery times and, people being given food that was basically rotten or it wasn't good. And you really had to work with things to make things palatable and edible that weren't. So we got used to really sugaring things, putting a lot of sugar in stuff and really salting things. And it's something that has stayed with us. In addition, a lot of communities have, we've got a lot of convenience stores. We've got a lot of corner stores. And what's in corner stores? Corner stores don't have fresh produce. You're lucky if you go into a corner store and there's some bananas or some apples. For the most part, corner stores are packed full of processed foods. So when you're hungry, you want a little snack, you go to your corner store, you're not going to have healthy options. You're going to have things like Doritos. You're going to have things like any number of chips. You're going to have things like candy bars. You're going to have things like jerky, things like that, things that are processed and preservative packed. So that is something that is also in a lot of communities of color. You also have, you name it, you got it, any type of fast food. I used to live in Leimert Park in Los Angeles, and there were more fast food restaurants and liquor stores than anything else. There was maybe, I would say there was like maybe one grocery store for every 20 to 25 fast food places. So if you are somebody who has grown up in the community, in the inner city, that is what you find. And even if you're not in the community and you go to Walgreens, I can go to the Walgreens up the street from here, and it's got every single type of chip you could want. And the sodas and all of these things. Mind you, soda's got sodium in it as well. So don't think because something's not salty, it doesn't have sodium. Sodium is in everything that is processed and preservative packed. Sodium is in it. So it means that we have to make a intentional effort, a conscious effort to make better choices with what we take. And I find myself a lot of times doing the same thing. So like I said, I'm preaching to myself. I will go into Sprouts and I'll be grocery shopping. One thing you should never do is go grocery shopping when you're hungry, but quite often I do. And I'll say, man, I'm hungry. Let me just grab something. 9 times out of 10, I'm not grabbing an orange. I'm not grabbing an apple. I'm not grabbing grapes. I'm grabbing something that has already been cooked and processed and preserved. So we need to start being more conscious of the decisions that we make, because those decisions, as little as they may seem, they add up. So let's get talking about sodium. Do I have anybody? If you're here tonight and you're watching me, please just let me know that you're here. Just drop and just say here, I'm listening, I'm watching. And I'm going to keep talking. So the average American eats 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. I'd like you to guess how many milligrams of sodium we actually need, our body actually needs. Hi, Furaha. Sasa. Sasa, Furaha. Guess, if you will, how many milligrams of salt the average person needs for their body to function properly. Just guess. So I told you that the average American eats about 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. Okay, anybody want to take a try? Anybody want to take a guess at how many we actually need for our body to function properly? All right. The average American takes in 3,400. Thank you for guessing, Furaha. It is actually half that amount. The body needs less than 500 milligrams of sodium per day to function properly. Yet the average American takes in 7 times that amount, 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. Is it any wonder that high blood pressure is rampant? And so many diseases that are all tied to excessive sodium consumption. 3,400 milligrams per day is what the average American takes in, and we only need actually less than 500, so 7 times the amount. So some people will say, it's funny. I often have people ask me, well, what happens if you don't get in enough, this protein conversation? What happens if you don't get enough protein? And I've said, I've never known anybody to not have enough protein. So I'm going to add this to the salt conversation. What happens if you don't eat enough salt? It is called hyponatremia, which is very, very, very unlikely. Because if you only need 500 milligrams of sodium per day, the average American diet, half of your meal, you've met your threshold for the day. Okay? And don't think because you're eating vegan or vegetarian foods, especially if they're processed, that you're free and clear. We're going to get into that later. But just for conversation's sake, if you have hyponatremia, which again is not likely, in severe cases, you'll have muscle cramps, nausea, vomiting, and dizziness. The lack of salt can lead to shock, coma, and death. Not likely to happen. Now, you might have shock, coma, and death from too much salt, but not from too little salt. Danger, danger, danger. High sodium foods. Let's list them. Smoked, cured, salted, or canned meat. Fish or poultry, including bacon, cold cuts, frankfurters, sausage, sardines, caviar, and anchovies. Frozen breaded meats and dinners, such as burritos and pizza. Canned entrees, such as ravioli, spam, and chili. Salted nuts. Beans canned with salt added. And convenience foods. Boxed potatoes, like instant mashed potatoes. Not good. Canned soups are incredibly high in sodium. Instant pudding, meal helpers like Hamburger Helper, pizza and frozen meals also tend to run high in sodium, as do salty snacks such as chips and pretzels. So I said earlier that just short of 500 milligrams of sodium is what the average body needs to function properly. A 1 ounce bag of Doritos has 210 milligrams of salt. And I know if you're eating Doritos, you're not eating a 1 ounce bag. I can't even buy Doritos because if I do, I just will sit there and I'll eat till almost the bag is gone. Doritos are incredibly high in salt. So how do you choose what to eat? When buying prepared meals, if you do that, which I totally discourage you from doing, look for those with less than 600 milligrams of sodium per meal. But realize that that one meal, you've met your threshold for sodium for the day. So I'm going to give you tips to get around this, but I just want to express to you the seriousness of the sodium intake that we have on the average day with no thought about it whatsoever. Okay. So the FDA, which I don't always agree with, they suggest that the meals that are labeled healthy should not be more than 600 milligrams. And that lets you know that they're really not talking about best practices here. Because if the average person only needs 500 milligrams for the day, and they're telling you that something can be labeled healthy if it has 600 milligrams for the one meal, they're saying that that's healthy. Don't depend on the FDA to get you right. I've talked to you guys about that before. They're not going to be the ones to help you get there. I'm going to try to get you there, but the FDA is not. So vegetarians, let's not get too excited. Let's not get too excited about, okay, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I don't eat meat, I don't eat cured sausages or hot dogs or things like that. Okay, Big Franks. We're going to get to reducing our sodium intake. It's coming up. Big Franks. One Big Frank is 217 milligrams of sodium. Okay? And I know when you eat your Big Frank, you're not just eating it by itself. You're going to put it in a bun. You're probably going to have some Vegenaise on it or some ketchup. Okay? And Vegenaise is 125 milligrams for 2 tablespoons. So between your Big Frank, your Vegenaise, and your bun, you have met your threshold for the day. Grillers are even worse. 390 milligrams for just the patty. So how do we get rid of excess sodium? This is why I did sodium and water together. Number 1, drink more water. Hydration is extremely important. Consuming sufficient water can help you remove excess sodium from your body. And another way to reduce your sodium intake is to increase your potassium intake. Potassium is found in things like potatoes and avocados. This can help control your blood pressure, and it helps to remove sodium and the effects of sodium from your body. Okay? Get moving. Physical activity. Physical activity is key to getting rid of sodium because it comes out in your sweat. When you're exercising, your digestive system is working better. That's another way to do it. Another way, just put down the salt shaker. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen people sit down at a table and before they even taste their food, they're shaking salt. And I've seen people do that on things like salad. I've seen people sit down with a salad and they start shaking salt all over it. Taste your food first. And I've talked to you all also about the fact that you can retrain your palate and that in a matter of days, you can heighten your sensitivity to salt and sugar just by eating more natural foods, whole foods. Okay. So Another way to reduce your sodium intake is don't go out to eat. When you go out to eat, I don't care what restaurant it is. Restaurants exist because they prepare food that tastes good. They are going to make sure that whatever is put in front of you tastes good. Okay? And the way to make things taste good is either with salt, is either with sugar, or some kind of fried process. Okay, so one of those three things. So when you go out, even if you go to a vegan restaurant, you still need to be sensitive because that food is cooked to taste good. And what tastes good? Salt, sugar, and fat. It may be vegan fat, but it's still fat. It may be coconut aminos or liquid aminos, that's still salt. It may be, coconut sugar or turbinado sugar, it's still sugar. So one thing I want you to realize is just because something is vegan or vegetarian, you still have to be mindful. It doesn't mean that you can just, run away with it and just eat to reckless abandon. You still have to be mindful. Another way to combat the effects of sodium is adding things like chia seed to your yogurt, flax seeds to your smoothie, adding okra. We had a great succotash dish last week that had okra, and I've shared with you all that you can even make a smoothie and drop some raw okra pods in there and blend that up, and you'll get the benefits of the okra without the sliminess that people don't like. Another great way to combat sodium is to eat bitter greens. So things like dandelion, collards, and kale. Those are great things to eat. But mind you, when you fix those dandelion greens, when you fix those collard greens, when you fix that kale, don't put a smoked turkey neck in there. Don't do that because you're undoing all the good that you're attempting to do by purchasing and preparing those foods. Get back to simplicity. If you're going to do kale, you can do a great massaged kale salad, a little bit of acid, like a lemon juice or something like that. You can do a little bit of a drizzle of olive oil and you get in there and you massage that so you break down the kale so it's not as rough and tough. After you've done that, then you can just do a sprinkle, just a slight sprinkle of salt if you'd like to, or just use a low sodium salad dressing. That's a great way to combat the effects of salt and sodium in your body. So now let's move on to water. Did you know that your body is 60% water? 60% water. So that lets you know that dehydration is a serious issue. Water is the lubrication that makes everything work in your body. Okay? So let's list the things that water does. It helps you to keep a normal temperature. It lubricates and cushions your joints. It protects your spinal cord and other sensitive tissues. It gets rid of waste through urination, perspiration, and bowel movements. And I'll have you know, people talk a lot about fiber in terms of constipation, but water plays a very, very big role too in preventing constipation. Okay? So how much water should you drink a day? I'm right there with you. How much water should you drink a day? Half of your body weight in ounces. So say, for example, you weigh 200 pounds. That means that every day you should be taking in 100 ounces of water. That may seem like a lot, but look at this. Divide your day up into 10 hours or 12 hours. So you wake up, say 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So we're looking from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's 12 hours. And I would suggest that you stop drinking water around that time, especially if you're just getting started, because you don't want to be up urinating all night. So I would suggest that you stop drinking your water probably around 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So we're now looking at a 12-hour block to get in 100 ounces of water. So that's about 8 ounces per hour. That's not impossible, people. If you have a little alarm that goes off every hour, the average water bottle is about 16.9 ounces. So you're going to be doing half of your water bottle on the hour. You can get in 96 to 100 ounces and not even feel it. Now, I understand some of you starting that, you're going to be urinating quite a bit, but after a while, it'll start to even out. If you have back pain, if you have joint pain, if you have, you're a little foggy, you just seem like you're kind of out of it, I challenge you to drink half your body weight in ounces and see the difference that it makes. Now, some of us that are a little heftier than others might end up having to drink a gallon. That might be too much for you. I would suggest to at least get in 100 ounces if you're somebody who's 200 pounds or over. At least try that. Now, I know there's some people that have medical conditions where they can't take in a lot of water, like congestive heart failure and things like that. So if you're somebody in that category, deal with your doctor on that. But I'm talking to people that have no issues that prevent them from taking in water. Get in half your body weight in ounces per day. Okay? So there's so many benefits to water. Let's talk about them. First of all, it satiates you. A lot of times when you think you're hungry, you're actually thirsty. And I challenge people to do that. And I challenge myself to do that. If I'm hungry, I'll stop, I'll get some water, and I'll drink it, and I'll wait. A lot of times we confuse hunger with thirst. Okay? Consuming water, again, can remove excess sodium from your body. And there are so many ways to get in water that are not drinking it from a bottle or drinking it from your tap. Listen to this. The fruits and vegetables that are high in water. Number 1, melons, such as watermelon, honeydew, and cantaloupe. Did you know that watermelon is the most hydrating fruit because it is 92% water? Yes, it's 92% water. Strawberries, pineapple, peaches, oranges, bell peppers, broccoli, celery, cucumber. All of these things are very high in water. And look at the bonus with these same things. Foods that are high in water typically are very low in calories. So again, when we talk about eating the rainbow, whoever came up with that was brilliant. Because if you are eating the rainbow, and if you are consuming foods that are high in water, they're naturally low in calories, right? You're getting the antioxidants from the berries and things like that. You're hydrating your body. Your body is functioning well. So even if you're not taking in that water, the 100 ounces, you can supplement it by having melon. You can have a big piece of melon at the end of the evening or at the beginning of the day. I saw the other day this lovely watermelon juice that you can make. It's simply watermelon, some cucumber, and some fresh basil. So yes, someone asked, does drinking smoothies, juice, and veggies count as your water intake? It can. Now, I don't want you to say, oh, I don't have to drink, this 10 ounces of water because I had watermelon. But what I am saying is increase your consumption of these types of fruit as well as drinking your water, because it's going to give you the nutrition that you need as well as giving you the hydration that you need. Okay, so We see now about the effects of sodium on our body and how to combat that by eating differently, by eating foods that are high in water and eating fruits and vegetables that are high in water. So there's a reason that increasing your activity is important. Increasing your activity is important because it gets things moving. But it is so important, again, to be hydrated when you do that, because your joints are lubricated with this water. You cannot underestimate the importance of water. When you wake up in the morning sometimes and your neck hurts or your back hurts, it could simply be you need more water. Are your lips chapped? You need more water. Are you having, skin things on your skin, eruptions on your skin? It's likely that it's water. There are so many things that are affected by that. So my challenge for you, my reclaiming your health people, is to challenge yourself with increasing your water intake and monitoring your sodium intake. Okay, here's a question. Are there any health benefits or risks associated with consuming mineral-rich flavored waters compared to plain water? There is a place for things like, I don't want to say Gatorade. Those are the types of things that if you're in a really dire situation and like a heat stroke or something like that, I understand why people would take something like a Gatorade, but that does not need to be your everyday thing. What would be better for you to take is coconut water. Coconut water is extremely hydrating and it's really, really good for you. One of the best brands of coconut water is Vita Coco. You can get that at Costco. There are a lot of places that have it, but Vita Coco is one of the few coconut waters that's actually pure coconut water. That's something that I want you all to get into the habit of doing, is taking a look at these labels when you go into the grocery store for sodium intake, for just junk that is in there, gums and, such and such, the cellulose and all these different things. Get acquainted with what you're taking in. Don't just pick up something because it's packaged pretty or somebody told you about it. Get acquainted, take responsibility, and look at what you're putting in your body. Because I've shared with you all, just because it's on the shelf doesn't mean that it's good for you. Okay, so those are the questions. Reducing your sodium intake. How do you maintain proper hydration? Does drinking smoothies, juice, and veggies count as water intake? And are there any benefits associated with consuming mineral-rich or flavored waters as compared to plain water? So I would say absolutely. Yep, there's Vita Coco. Vita Coco is great. I love it. I even put that I drink it on its own. And then I put it in my smoothies sometimes in place of regular water or in place of almond milk. Vita Coco is great. There's actually a sale going on now. I just picked up 3 cases today at Costco. So really great coconut water. So that's it, folks. I just wanted to share that information with you this evening about sodium and about water and how they work together and how one can be managed by the other, how you can manage your sodium intake by drinking more water, and just to be very, very aware, because there are certain diseases that come as a result of excess sodium intake. And once you get high blood pressure and things like that, and they put you on medication, the medication addresses the symptoms, not the cause. And so there's a whole other host of side effects that come along with you taking high blood pressure medication for the long term. So let's not even go there. Let's take charge of our health by monitoring our sodium intake every single day. Monitor that, increase your water consumption, and you will be the better for it. I promise you. Better vision, You won't have foggy thinking. Your skin is going to be glowing and glistening. You're going to be your digestive system. You're going to be stooling regular. All of those things will come into play. Thank you for joining me on Reclaiming Your Health. We'll see you next week. Bye, Furaha.